Well, today we get to talk about everyone's favorite topic.
Yes.
Social media.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I mean...
they two tie into each other very well.
Very, very well. And specifically, the stories we like to tell other people to make us appear better people.
It's true. It's true.
I fall down to my knees. Eyes are raised to the sky.
Welcome to Assumptions. This is the podcast that explores worldviews with two people who have vastly different outlooks on the world. My name is Kyle. I describe myself as a humanist.
My name is Daniel. I would describe myself as a Christian. You know, last week we talked about last episode.
Sure.
We talked about our desire to
preserve the illusion, Daniel.
That's right.
Last week when we recorded.
We were sitting here. We talked about creating, our desire to create.
Right.
And how we both believe, despite our differences, that it is an innately human... Innately? Yes. Innately, thank you. Human desire to tell stories. And so social media is this new phenomenon that's existed really in the last, 10 years?
I'd say 10, yeah.
10 years, where it's now a chance for us to tell our stories in ways that might not appear as a grand narrative, but you can certainly look back maybe and see how your own narrative takes place. So we'll talk about that. But let's just start by talking about how do you think social media has impacted our society in those last 10 years? And how has it impacted you specifically? As you've become part of it.
Well, I mean, I want to hear your answer to that same question, but for me, as with any new medium, and maybe that's too strong of a word to use for social media, but the same thing could be said of the internet as a whole, which I think that there is a lot of great benefits that have happened, but with that, or coupled with that, is a lot of, I guess, unforeseen terribleness, for lack of a better word. I can't think of something better to say. So specifically for time with social media, what I enjoy about it is that I am staying in touch with people that I probably would not have had this not existed. I would have drifted away because of high school, and I went to a new city, and maybe I didn't have their phone number, or they've changed cell phones. It's it's a different world than it was before. So I can still keep up to date with what they're doing. Also, because of, I'm going to kind of couple YouTube in with social media. I know it's not 100% the same thing, really.
For you it is,
but kind of is. I mean, I've met friends through that medium. I've discovered new talent, books, movies, TV shows I would never have heard of or seen before had it not been for social media. There's no other outlets to see this content that's being produced. So I think that's the benefit. The flip side of that coin is that, of course, there's always those people that are going to abuse that or use it for hate or use it to bring people down instead of building people up.
Have you had that happen to yourself?
I mean, the story I always tell, because not really on most social media, because I don't really get that political in anything that I post, whether it's Facebook or Twitter. I definitely get a lot of that in my feed, and I'll offer my opinion if I'm asked directly. But for... the story I tell is about YouTube, and in my first year, maybe my second year, I vividly remember the comment where if I ever met you in real life, I would stab you until you were dead. Is the exact comment that was left.
Wow.
But for me, I laughed because I thought it was so over the top ridiculous. I was like, I don't know how else to function with this. So I think that definitely there's other people who get it far worse than I ever have.
Yeah, well, let me ask you it this way then. How is the social media process? You talked about how it's enriched your thought life and how you have met people and how you have had things recommended to yourself that you wouldn't have come across otherwise. Is there a way that it's fragmented your thought life? And I'm talking about not only how you post stuff, but also how you consume.
Consuming, absolutely. Now it is, and this is just as our society goes, again, more onto the internet itself, we are really... I guess, attuned to getting piecemeal or bit-sized information. And so things that can only fit into 140 characters, or I'm just going to read the headline, I'm not really going to go into the actual article itself. That sort of thing I can see all the time. I like to use Twitter a lot just to see very quickly what is going on, because I can see people's reactions in real time. I can see if there's a big news story that's breaking, and I can use that maybe to then go to a source that I want to delve into further detail. Something that we were talking about off air was the fact that Facebook might have a little bit of a different take, but you're getting very insular as far as the information that you're getting presented.
Yeah.
Because of algorithms and the way that the AI is working in the background, where you are sometimes only seeing the information that Facebook thinks you're going to like.
You're going to want to see, yeah.
That you're going to want to see. And
So then you think the whole world's talking about that.
Correct.
It's a very self-centered.
Yeah.
Whereas like before, you'd go to a newspaper and you'd have somebody's objective opinion that an editor has put together with different points of view, hopefully, and you're reading it and you're deciding what you like. Whereas now it's being fed to you based on what it knows you like.
Yeah, Google is really great at this. It
Yeah.
knows that because you looked at this one thing on Amazon, that now it can start to give you these types of ads or maybe give you this type of content.
But in the sense
it
of,
all kind of works together.
But then think about that in the sense of Facebook. You're on this platform that's dedicated to you, that's built around what you think you like, your interests, the news items that you think are worthy. So you may think that you're staying up to date by being on Facebook. You know the news feed they have along the side. And I remember sometimes thinking like, man, that's my favorite artist has shown up in the news feed a number of times now. It's not because he's breaking news. It's because there's a little tidbit that they know I want to know about. Like it builds this. You think you're so woke, you're aware of what's going on, but it's really just it's you're walking around with this. You visualize it. You're walking down the street with this screen wrapped around your head and things coming into you that you want. Like it's
if there's two things I am, it's woke and swole. So that's me. I want to know the answer to those questions for yourself. Do you think how has social media affected you? And how do you affect social media?
Social media. Well, we've been referring to a book at the beginning of this podcast called The Stories We Tell by Mike Cosper. And he had an essay in there that was comparing reality TV to social media. And so to answer, I want to talk about that. To answer your question, though, I think that's something that I want to be aware of, is that I go on social media and I'm being fed stuff that I want to be fed. And so it's a very, not that I wasn't doing that before, but it's a kind of self-centered way of doing that. So that frustrates me in a sense. And for me, one of the things that really frustrates me is I'm ADHD in general. Clinically, it's the thing. I'm not just something I'm calling myself. But I find that it's so quick for me, rather than looking at my phone and look at something interesting, to jump onto social media just to get a little bit of fix. Is there anything new? Is there anything scandalous? Is there anything like that makes me happy because they know what I like? That I'm going there constantly, and even if there is something interesting, it's not like I go on and I read that article. I save it for later. So the things that I want, I'm not even ready to consume when they deliver it to me. I just want that
for
rush.
That dopamine fix.
Exactly.
Like, oh, yes,
I want this. Yeah. And that's something so that's the negative impact of it, is it's fragmenting my world in a sense. On the positive, I've met some amazing people through social media. I think, I hope to talk about this a little more about the fragmentation of it, but I do think that I am aware of things I wouldn't have been aware of when it comes to news or entertainment or pop culture, and even just local stuff. I started following my local theaters that play independent films, and now I'm aware of these showings I want to go to, whereas if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have that. But I'm thinking of taking...
If there's one thing to take away from this, it's a way to become more pretentious.
That's right. But I'm thinking of taking a break from it for Lent. The 40 days where you usually take something away from your life that you like a lot. I think I'm going to do that for social media. And as I was considering that, I thought, what am I going to miss most? And there's certain people I'm going to miss a lot, but part of it's going to be the keeping up in the world that I like, the film world specifically. It's going to be hard to know what good films are coming out.
He'll survive.
Yeah.
Well, how do you interact with social media yourself? Like, what do you like to post? How do you cultivate your personality online?
Right. Should we read that quote?
Yeah, let's read it.
As a segue. So if you think about reality shows shows and technology is something that Mike Cosper says defines our age. Reality shows is it comes from a documentary path. You love documentaries.
I do.
Do you like reality shows?
No.
Okay. Why is there a difference there between documentary and reality show?
If we think of the traditional reality show, which is either... There's two main ones that I find that are on television, which is either there is some sort of competition involved, where it's the Bachelor, Bachelorette, Survivor, Big Brother sort of thing, where it's like, you're throwing these people together, but it's for a competition's sake. So it's not really reality that we're looking at in this case. It's a game show. Or there's the other one that we have, like the Kardashians, the Osbournes years ago. There's something else online that's like really popular now. I'm totally blank. Oh, Real Housewives. That kind of franchise that's going on, which is again we're in the lives of these people, but for me at least, I can tell very much that most of this feels like this is made up, or that they're kind of half acting, half having this be real at the same time. So again, it's
heavily edited.
It's heavily edited. So this really isn't reality. This is being made because they know it's going to be shown on television, so they have to play up for ratings. They're kind of juicing the script a bit.
Okay, so then let's look at that from the social media perspective.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, if we're a society that's captivated by being famous but for being ordinary, right? But for not being famous, like, well, I think the Kardashians are an example of that.
But are they ordinary? Would you say that they're ordinary?
But they're not like, she's actually said that, Kim Kardashian, is that like, you're famous for being famous. Like, that's her talent.
Right. Oh,
that's why people follow
yeah.
her. It's not because she's written a book or is a great
Gotcha.
musician.
I see what
or
you're saying.
She has a lot of money and she's famous.
Yeah,
And she's good at being famous. And so that's kind of like, we always have a soundtrack in our head. So in the sense that we think we're the star of our own movie.
Yeah.
Do you get that sense when you walk around and you're like, yep, you kind of see yourself from that lens?
Mine is the Benny Hill theme song all the time.
I always have something.
Yeah.
And in a sense, social media is a way for us to take those ordinary snippets of our lives and edit them in a manner that allows others to partake of what we want them to partake of in our lives. Mm-hmm. It's not an honest look at our lives by any means.
No.
But it's what we want the world to see.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think social media, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, these are all things that we want to be known for, or how we want to be looked at. Mm-hmm. Although I will say that in certain times, that can crumble a little bit.
Okay,
I've seen, specifically from, not to get political, but from this election that we've just had in the United States, where people seem to be much more inclined to jump on their soapboxes as far as injustices that they're seeing, more than I really remember over the last 2 years. Again, that could be my social media bubble that I've been in.
Oh, you're talking about like the killings of black people in the States, like where they're using social media to like, look, this is happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no more filter there. Okay.
Correct.
And
yeah.
I think and
they're not being like, so it's like, I stand up for human rights, which you might see every now. It's like, no, I think this is going on. This is wrong. Look at this article. Like, they're pounding it out every single day, multiple different times. It's not just like. Even the ruling of like gay marriage becoming legal in the U.S., where people like change their profile pictures and have like the pride flag in the background. Great, yeah, that happened for what, 2 days, 3 days, and then it went away. This is like a constant barrage of.
You're talking about people that do this.
Yeah.
That portray that certain way.
So there's that aspect of it that I think that's changing, and I think it crumbles sometimes around great loss and tragedy, where I've seen definitely on Facebook where it's like, you know, I don't normally post this stuff, but let me tell you about this great person I just lost in my life, or like I don't want to keep a happy facade on right now. I want you to share my pain right now.
Totally, and I've posted some of those in the past year, I think, and that's when you really are built up by the social media, because I had a post about a year ago where I was talking about mental health, and like I had people messaging from around the world that I like didn't even realize I was friends with anymore, that were reaching out to me saying, hey, I've gone through something similar, or I didn't know this was something that was going on in your life, like I'm here for you. And like that was an amazing feeling. That was remarkable. That was a benefit of social media and doing that. But even that portrayal, where like, yeah, I'm someone who's going through life and I'm suffering through it, that can very easily become your portrayal of yourself to the world. I'm going to read this quote now before we totally dive away from it. But so he's talking about the reality TV, just the fad and the strangeness of it. Like, think about it. Like, you are showing who does that? Who would put their lives on display? Well, we all do.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a new phenomenon, and it seems to be crossing generations in many different ways. I find where. Well, I mean, my mother's now on Facebook and sharing different things. So, I mean, it's definitely not something that only millennials do, or only our generation does. It seems to have proliferated now for like any generation. Now, some will use it more, and there's some networks like Snapchat that gear way towards a certain demographic.
So he says, our presence on social media is a story we're telling about who we are, and like the production of a reality TV show, it's all about the editing. What we share and don't share on social media is shaped by how we want the world to see us. With the click of a button, we can open and close doors of connectivity. No awkward conversations, rare repercussions, easily managed, easily edited lives. He keeps going, our mobile devices are designed to make us feel like the whole digital world is all about us. And then he goes on and says how even that this world that social media creates for us with its own systems of reward are all based around how well you do on it. It's a game in a sense, and you get fed coins that are actual reactions that make you feel good.
Sure.
And you crave it. You crave the new view or the comment or the like or the retweet, whatever that is.
Yeah, and I'm definitely guilty of this as well. I mean, I definitely have fallen prey to that. Like, oh, look how many likes this thing has gotten.
Oh, yeah, and you track it. I do it all the time. At any moment, we can escape into a private world that's tailored to us and that is eager for our next picture, our next status update, our next link, a world complete with a built-in system of rewards for worthy content, retweets, likes, and so on. On the web, we all star in our own show. We glory in ourselves.
And again, that's maybe sometimes the bad side of it. I think that there is a real... what's the right word that I'm looking for here? There's a real danger in looking at the amount of likes, amount of retweets, even the interaction that you get online with real friendship or camaraderie or real relationships with people.
Right.
So there is that danger that people can fall into.
Facade, it's a fake versus the real relationship.
Correct. Yeah.
There's no reaction.
Not that I don't think that there can be relationships that are built from online specifically. My message is getting muddled, but I think what I'm coming down to is that what I agree with in that quote is that we are definitely curating how we want the world to see us.
Lightning will strike, fear in my heart every night. I'm giving an opinion, I'm not taking a chance on a certain romance or a sideways glance. Haven't you heard?
When I grew up, there was fashion, there was like the music that you listened to, the sports teams that you identified with, all of that. Yeah, all those things still are important, I think, in real life right now. But more so than that is like, look how many friends I have. These are the things I'm interested in. These are the things I stand for. This is me, and that is you trying to control the message.
Yes.
Until other people try to co-opt that message.
And that comes back to, we're talking about storytelling this season. And so you're telling a story, you're creating an image of yourself. Yeah. Right? A version of yourself. And when I read that quote, I recalled, and looking back a couple months before I read that in the summer, and I would scroll through my own feed. So I go to my Facebook page, look at my own profile, and I remember scrolling through it and looking and going, oh, that was a good quote I posted. Oh, look at that photo of me, having some friends over for a meal. And there's a very artistic photo. Oh, there's a stack of the books I was reading. And I realized how I look back going, man, I'm a cool guy. I can look back at how I portrayed myself. Sure. And it evaluates, it builds me up.
Was that something you were doing consciously, or that just somehow happened?
It happened, but I was doing it consciously. I remember looking at it and going, wow, cool. Okay, this is the kind of thing I need to do more of, because this is me. I gotta write, here's a nice quote that's thought-provoking and spiritual and deep. Oh, here's something I wrote that was, just witty, and here's something that was intellectual that I put on here. Sure. I was crafting an image for myself through what I was posting on social media. And that image, maybe that's me, but it's not an accurate image of me. It's how I want to be seen.
Well, how different do you think your social media profiles would be if friends and family had control over what got posted?
Interesting. They're the ones posting it? Huh, that's an interesting question. I mean, it'd be more honest, perhaps, right?
Maybe.
It'd be more chances to make fun of people.
Sure.
Right, more jokes. And what do you think?
That's a hard question for me, because I have known through my...
You don't have friends or family. It's really hard to answer.
Grew up an orphan. I fight crime now in a bat suit. Talking about mental disorders again, I think I suffer from this outlook that impacts what I think would actually happen. Yeah. So keep that in mind with a grain of salt. But I do feel that there would probably be more pictures of me, truthfully, because I don't post a lot of my own myself on my social media. I think that there would probably be more exaltation in accomplishments. Again, things I don't normally post. Because how I have kind of gone through social media, by and large, is I made this commitment to myself years ago. Again, specifically with YouTube and a little bit over on Twitter. in Facebook, which is I really decided to do the Oliver Cromwell approach, which, if you know your English history, he was Lord Protector of England for a while, and then the kings came back. And he said that when he was getting his painting painted, it wouldn't be his royal painting, but the painting that they always painted, he said, "Paint me as I am, warts and all."
Right.
And I really wanted that to be the same thing. It's like, I want to be sad if I'm sad. I want to be angry if I'm angry. And I want to be happy when I'm happy. And so I've revealed a lot about myself and gone very open about certain things I've dealt with. Now, there are still things that I think I don't need to talk about. So it's not like it's 100% open. There's things like, I'm not going to talk about this specifically. But at the same time, if I broach a topic, or specifically if it is a personal topic, then I had to be 100% honest with people that were watching me. So that's how I've always given it. Now, being honest for me sometimes means that I'm a little bit harder on myself than others, I've found.
And so is that the Facebook, is that the Twitter, or is that the YouTube, or is that all?
YouTube mostly. I do post some of that stuff kind of late night on Twitter occasionally. Facebook is weird because
your mom's on it.
My mom's on it. And that's true. So it's not like I feel like going on like a polemic, like just typing really hard on my keys and stuff like that. I just don't think that adds much to the conversation. But I would if I had to. If I really saw something egregious like this is not something I stand for. So, I changed my avatar with the pride flag, for instance, on Facebook. So.
Okay, there you go. I didn't.
Well, that's because you hate gay people.
Exactly. That's why we're having this conversation.
That's right.
If you think about your YouTube, so you've been on YouTube for, you said 7 years now?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. So 7 years on YouTube. So I'm looking at my Facebook and how that's been shaped by how I'm trying to curate who I want to be. When you're on YouTube, there's a YouTube persona that you have.
There is. I will agree with that. Okay. I don't think I go as far as to what I call the traditional YouTube persona, which is like character that goes on. It's like, hey guys, what's going on? Like that type of thing. I've never been doing that, but I can definitely I can still do a video if I'm kind of in a petty mood, or it's like, well, this is the topic I want to talk about this week, and I'm really tired from work. But I'm going to do it anyway. So I just pump myself up and like.
Is there a different voice? I feel like there is a slightly different voice for you.
Slightly different voice, cadence. I talk a little bit faster in my YouTube videos than I do in normal life.
In real life, it's a tip, guys. If you meet Kyle.
I don't do as many jump cuts in normal life either. So there's I don't randomly appear on the side of your vision and then back into the front.
Why? That doesn't explain my interactions with you, Kyle.
That's right.
Who is that person then?
Who is that person? But I think that's the same as you have a certain style when you talk to your parents versus when you talk to your very close friends versus when you talk to your employer. Like there's different ways that you talk to different people in your life.
So we're talking about storytelling. We're talking about social media, how we tell our stories. One of the things that Mike Cosper brought out in that book, which I reread that chapter this week in preparation for this.
I did not.
You did not. That's why you're talking about it.
You were the one who prepares, and I'm the one who's just like, here for the ride.
But I had also just read an essay by C.S. Lewis called The Weight of Glory. And his point in that essay is that he has this famous illustration where he says, we're building sandcastles in the mud when the vacation and the ocean and the sea is all around us. We just don't choose it. His point is that our desire to tell ourselves, to express ourselves, to be something, which I think social media allows us to be. It allows you to have a world online that's yours, and a persona that's yours, and a crowd of people listening to you that's different. That desire is something that speaks about something deep into us. So let's bring this back to worldviews, our podcast. I'm a Christian, so I'm someone who believes that I am made in the image of God. And that I am made to worship God, and that my ultimate end will be not to be a God like Mormons believe, but to be in God's presence.
Mormon slam over here.
But to be in God's presence in glory, and in the best of what's possible, and so that desire to portray myself as something is actually, it's tapping into that, but it's probably doing it in a way that is off kilter from what I believe. We can talk about that more, but I'm curious from your perspective then, like, is social media, or not social media, but YouTube, let's say, so your desire to make something out of your life, and a little bit what we talked about last episode, but specifically chronicling your life, a way to push back against the void. Because if I were to capture your worldview, I'd say, like, that might be what I'm tempted to say about it. I'm curious, how would you, as someone who does, as an agnostic, how would you say that?
I think for me it is about that connection. I really want to have that connection with other people, whether it be friends, family, strangers over in Germany, whatever it happens to be. I have a large following in Germany. That's why I said that. When I say that, there's at least like 6 or 7 people who watch in Germany, which I think is like crazy.
That's
anyway,
crazy, yeah. Is it the largest country?
No, it's all the English-speaking countries. So you like have Canada, U.S., U.K., Australia, and then it starts going to like Germany, Austria, other places.
That's crazy.
Anyways, I guess it's that connection piece, and it's that ability to create something that other people find value in. When I started doing this, I think there was, and to a certain extent there still is, that desire to have fame, but not fame in the sense that I want to be famous and rich and that's the end goal, but more that would then allow me to create better and deeper art for people, if that makes sense.
Does it have significance?
There is, because there's always this drive inside of myself, I can only speak for myself, of leaving something of value when I die. I want there to be value that was left here, and for me that has always been something tangible that someone can touch or see or hear, not necessarily he made me laugh a couple times. For me, for whatever reason, I just do not value that as much as being like, this is the thing that I laugh, that people still find value in, that people still find useful in their lives. I don't know if I've necessarily tapped into that 100% yet, as you can tell from this podcast. And so that is my drive, is to create something of value to leave the world. It's interesting. And that is a very self-centered approach. I totally am the first one to admit that, but that's my drive.
But that word significance, like when I think of it, like all these people. So imagine like bird's eye view of the landscape, and here we have these little specks that are wandering around that are incredible things, humans. But we're yearning for something more. We're trying to push ourselves away from the gravity, right? And whether we're doing that by having a large following on YouTube, or by just creating good content on Facebook, right? So here's the picture, like here's my life. I just had coffee, and here's a photo of it. Here's something that proves that I did something. As a record of it, significance to it. Like I just wonder how.
I think there's that. I don't know if anyone would verbalize it this way necessarily, but I think there is. In us that desire to be remembered, where we hear stories or read stories or experience stories of the past, where we come across these ancient civilizations, where it's like, oh look, like these doubloons or this Tupperware that they, not Tupperware, but this pottery that they left here from an ancient world, and this desire to find the lost city of Atlantis, right? There's this desire to be like, hey, these people existed, these people lived, these people were here. Like the classic story of Pompeii, and we have that image of the young kid hugging the dog that they found inside the lava. It's like, we don't know who that is necessarily. We don't know their story. We can make things up in our minds. But there's that same type of thing. It's like, oh, there's this person. They have a coffee. They existed. There was something that happened.
I enjoyed this even.
With this person, right?
Like, the sense of us, the common habit now, if you get a beautiful meal delivered, or you cook a beautiful meal, what's the first thing you do?
You take a picture.
Take a picture of it, and
because you can't experience that meal unless you take a picture of it.
Almost in a sense, I think of, I'm a Christian, but I don't pray over my meals. As regular as I think like the previous generation did. And I think of it, like that was something, when you got a beautiful meal, what was the first thing you did back in that generation? You said grace. You said thank you for it. And I think taking a photo and posting it, it can have selfish motives, but I think the root cause for a lot of it is going, this is beautiful. Let me just take a moment to acknowledge it. And say, well done. Whether that's me or the cook or the fact that I'm here at this cool restaurant, like whatever. But it's a moment to say, this is good. Let me capture this before I dig in. And let me not just consume it. Let me honor it. I
guess my question for you, as a Christian, this is what I've really been thinking of over the last few weeks. I mean, since the last week that we recorded, is how do you identify, you being a Christian, how do you identify between I am exulting in this for God versus I am exulting in this for my own selfish benefit? How is there that fine line?
Where it's like, the fine line?
So how do you say, it's like, I'm doing this for God, but really I'm doing this so that other people know that I'm a really good Christian at the same time.
And I think it's that underlying motive. And when I look at social media and that example of me looking back from my feed and realizing this is what I'm doing, it's because I think it's a human thing. It's that as humans, I believe we are made for glory. So when we are creating something good with our lives, whether that's a YouTube video or a post on Instagram, that's a way to yearn for that. And in some way, we want to honor the good. We want to honor God somehow, whether we believe in Him or not. We want that glory. And as a Christian, it's so easy to fall back into that and say, so I did music at church this morning. Did I do a decent job? Okay, cool, I did. Am I happy that I did a decent job, or am I happy that the church got to sing with me in a decent way? It is. I struggle with it all the time. And I've talked to creatives that are Christians and are very serious about it and are good at being creative. I say, how do you stay humble doing this? Like, how do you, and they said, we struggle with it all the time. Yeah. It's not something that you can conquer, I think. But in the end, it comes down to saying that if I look at myself, the things that I do matter, but in the end, they are all tainted. They're not going to, they aren't pure on their own. And so I think it comes down to the idea that as a Christian, I believe that what I do is not good enough, and that I need someone who is good to do that for me. So then now that I'm as a Christian creating stuff and wanting to glorify God through that, I can't do it on my own. And that attitude is always going to come back because I'm still of that nature. But it's going to be a constant fight. And I even think that I was talking to a good friend of mine who's a Christian, a lot older than I am, and he said, I think the purpose of us creating stuff, whether it's teaching or art, throughout this life is to show us that we can't really do it, that we're always going to want to do it for ourselves. And that's one of the reasons why I look forward to the new heaven and the new earth, is that desire for my own glory is not going to be there. It's going to be killed because I'm in the presence of what is good. And now I can create something that really is going to be beautiful, because what is selfish of me is taken away completely. And until then, it's a way of showing me that I can do it.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. I don't understand that emotion necessarily.
What emotion side of it?
No, I'm just meaning that I guess your eventual desire is to not... How do I put this? Your eventual desire is to not want to create stuff.
I want to create stuff, but I don't want to. I want to do it for the right motives. I want to do it a purity. If you think of your life as like a piece of pottery, I can't create a perfect jar. Now it's always going to have some bumps, something wrong with it. Someday I will. Yes, you should borrow that analogy. Someday there will be an opportunity where all of everything in me that is making that thing fail, whether that's my attitude, the question you asked, how do I keep that about myself versus about God, or whether it's just like this, like we are limited by time and by energies and by talent here on Earth, that I'm looking forward to the day where that will be taken away and I can actually make something beautiful for the right motive,
right, and
with the right resources.
I just want to make something that has a lot of fart jokes in it.
Well, that's not this podcast.
No,
but I hear you have another one out there.
It's coming out. It's called Fartcast. It'll be on iTunes very, very soon.
It'll be more popular than this.
Probably. How do we normally end these things?
Well, I guess we can sum up what we learned.
Okay.
What did you learn?
What did I learn today, Daniel? I learned today that I think that we both still recognize that even though we are cultivating something online that might be not 100% true, that in itself might not be a bad thing as long as we're acknowledging that and still seeking to understand other people.
Okay.
I mean, I might not share absolutely everything on my Twitter feed, but that doesn't mean that I can't share the things that are the most important to me at the same time.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think it's that realizing that we do try to portray ourselves because we want to do something with what's given to us. We are experiencing all these things. We're experiencing these emotions, these stories, these experiences. I want to give that back in some way. I don't just want to take it all in. I want to empty it out. And I think social media can be a great way to do that. What I'm trying to figure out is how to handle it best.
Right.
And how
I think it's easy to succumb to the hive mind, or to succumb to being petty and stuff like that. But there's no better way to watch a Super Bowl than on Twitter. It's a lot of fun.
Are Super Bowls ever fun? I'm really excited for our next episode because we've been talking right now about how we tell stories and how we're shaped by the stories that we tell. And I think that we're also shaped by the society that we live in, and it has a story to tell. And we also talked a little bit in this episode about creating art for the glory of God. And today you came to church to watch me try to do that.
I did.
So we're going to be talking about next episode, about your experience coming to church, my church, and what kind of stories that church tell. I can't wait.
That's right. It's a lot of fart jokes. Once again, it is my task to tell you all the credits here at the end of the episode. Daniel Melville Jones and Kyle Marshall are the producers of Assumptions. This one was edited by, you guessed it, myself, Kyle Marshall. All the other thanks and credits and show notes can be found down in the description of this podcast. One thing that I will say is that the people who provide the music for us, the Parson Redheads, just released a new album, which you can go and get in all of the places that you can get albums. And it would probably help if you knew what the name of that album was. It's Blurred Harmony. So go to any place where you can purchase records, if that's what they still call them, and it's called Blurred Harmony by the Parson Redheads. We still would find it very helpful if you can go onto iTunes or wherever you consume this podcast and leave a review for this show. It helps us in our rankings and other cool things out on the internet. We're getting very close to the end of the first season. I know you're all Twitter-pated about that, but here's a preview of the next episode.
The reason I wanted to bring you into church is given that
to indoctrinate me
yes,
and to convert.
That's right. I wanted you to love Jesus, but failing that, I wanted you to be able to offer your Martian perspective on what that looked like. Okay, and under the mental framework of the reason I go to church on a weekly basis is because I go there and I'm told a certain story. I would even say I'm immersed in that certain story, because I'm not just sitting there having it fed to me, I'm participating in it. I stand and I sing, I drink and I eat, I talk to people and I pray, and I sometimes play music for that. And there's a fair bit of just sitting and listening, as you experienced. But that's because I need to be reminded of what I believe the true narrative is. And it's a narrative that
This has been Assumptions.